The space around Kepler 442 was filled with ships like Captain Sarah Chun had never seen before. They looked like art pieces floating in the black void. Some were long and curved like silver ribbons. Others were round and glowing with soft blue light. A few looked like they were made of living crystal that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. Then there was her ship, the GSV. Terran Defiance looked like a flying brick next to these beautiful alien vessels. It was all sharp angles and gray metal. Pipes and cables ran along its outside hull. Gun turrets stuck out like angry thorns. Where the alien ships were smooth and graceful, the human warship was rough and built for business. Captain Chun stood on the bridge looking at the main screen. She was a tall woman with short black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. She had been in the Earth Navy for 15 years. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and rebels on Mars, but this was different. This was first contact with alien life. "Contact established, Captain," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. He was young but smart. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "They are speaking to us in English. Their computer systems must have learned our language from our transmissions." "Put it on speaker," Chun said. A voice came through the speakers. It sounded musical and light. "Greetings, vessel from the star system you call Sol. I am Ambassador Vex Thai of the Galactic Council. We welcome you to Kepler 442, Chun stepped forward. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earthship Terran Defiance. We come in peace seeking membership in your Galactic Council." There was a pause. Then the voice came back, but Chun could hear something in it now. It sounded like the way adults talk to children. "Of course, Captain Chun, we are always happy when new species join the galactic community. Your ship design is quite interesting." Chun looked at her tactical officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez. The woman raised one eyebrow. They both knew that tone. It was the same tone rich people used when they looked at old Earth tech. "We would like to arrange a meeting," the alien voice continued. "Please follow the beacon to docking station 7. We have prepared a suitable area for your vessel." The words were polite, but Chun heard what they really meant. They were being put in the cheap seats. "Understood, Ambassador. We will follow your beacon." The connection ended. Chun turned to her crew. "Well, people, this is it. First contact. With alien life, let's try not to embarrass the human race." The bridge crew smiled. These were good people. Chun had handpicked every one of them. They came from all over Earth. Torres was from Mexico. Rodriguez was from Spain. Her engineer, Petty Officer Kim, was from Korea. Her pilot, Ensign Anderson, was from Norway. They represented the best of humanity. The Terran Defiance moved slowly toward the beacon. As they got closer, Chun could see the alien ships better. The silver ribbon ships belonged to something called the Ethereals. They moved through space like fish swimming through water. Their hulls seemed to bend and flow as they flew. The round glowing ships were from the Aquarian Republic. They looked like jellyfish made of metal and light. Energy fields danced around them in beautiful patterns. Chun counted at least 20. Of them, the crystal ships were the most amazing. They belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Each one looked like it had been grown instead of built. Light passed through them and came out changed, creating clouds of colored gas around each vessel. Then there were ships from species Chun had never heard of. Some looked like flowers with metal petals. Others were shaped like spirals that seemed to spin even when they were standing still. One looked like it was made of nothing but light held together by force fields. "Captain," said Ensign Anderson from the pilot station, "I'm getting some strange readings from the alien ships. Their engines don't make sense. No heat signature, no radiation. It's like they're using something completely different from our fusion drives." "Noted," Chun said. "Keep monitoring." The docking station was huge. It was built to hold ships of all sizes. The Terran Defiance looked small next to some of the alien vessels, but Chang noticed they were being directed to a section with other ships that looked more normal, less advanced. "Looks like we're being grouped with the other primitives," Rodriguez said quietly. Chun nodded. She had expected this. Humans were the new kids in school. They would have to prove themselves. The docking was smooth. Earth's pilots were good at their jobs. As soon as they were connected, Chen felt the station's artificial gravity take hold. It felt strange after months in space. "Captain," Torres said, "we're getting a message. The Council wants to meet with you in 1 hour. Formal first contact ceremony." "Tell them I'll be there," Chen said. She turned to Rodriguez. "You have the ship. Standard protocols? No one goes anywhere alone." "Full security measures," Rodriguez nodded. "Understood, Captain." Chun went to her quarters to change into her dress uniform. The dark blue jacket with gold trim looked good, but she felt strange wearing it. She was used to combat gear and work clothes. This formal stuff was for politicians and diplomats. As she walked through the corridors of her ship, Chun thought about how different the Terran Defiance was from the alien vessels. Every surface served a purpose. There were no decorations or art. The walls were thick metal designed to stop enemy fire. The corridors were wide enough to move equipment and wounded people quickly. The ship had been built in the orbital yards around Earth. It was the first warship humanity had ever built specifically for deep space. Every system had been tested and retested. Every weapon had been fired thousands of times. Every piece of armor had been hit with everything from lasers to nuclear bombs. But looking at those alien ships, Chun wondered if all that testing mattered. The aliens clearly had technology far beyond what humans could build. Their ships moved without visible engines. Their hulls were made of materials that shouldn't exist. Their weapons probably made human railguns look like throwing rocks. Still, Chun felt proud of her ship. It might not be pretty, but it was solid. It was built by people who knew how to fight and how to survive. Every rivet and weld had been placed by someone who understood that in space there was no room for mistakes. The walk to the meeting area took 20 minutes. Chun passed through several sections of the station. Each one was different. The ethereal sections were full of flowing curves and soft light. The Aquarian areas had pools of water and floating platforms. The Zephyrian sections looked like the inside of giant crystals. The human section was simple and practical. Gray walls, bright lights, and straight corridors. It looked like every military base Chun had ever seen. Familiar and boring. Hall was enormous. It could have held 1,000 people easily. Chun counted representatives from at least 20 different species. They all looked at her as she entered. Most seemed curious but not particularly impressed. Ambassador Vextai turned out to be one of the ethereals. He was tall and thin with skin that seemed to glow from within. His clothes moved like they were made of liquid metal. When he spoke, his voice had that same musical quality Chun had heard on the radio. "Captain Chun, welcome to the Galactic Council. It is always exciting when a new species takes their first steps into the larger galaxy." There was that tone again. Like she was a child taking her first steps. "Thank you, Ambassador. Humanity is honored to be here." "Of course," Vextai said. "Now, we should discuss the process for joining the Council. There are certain requirements. Tests that must be passed, standards that must be met." Chun had expected this too. "What kind of tests?" a new voice answered. It sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Military competence is one requirement." The speaker was a Zephyrian. Her body looked like it was carved from living diamond. "All council members must be able to contribute to galactic defense." "Defense against what?" Chun asked. The aliens looked at each other. Finally, an Aquarian spoke. His voice bubbled like water over rocks. "Pirates, raiders, the occasional rebellious colony, nothing too serious. The galaxy has been at peace for over 200 years. Chun nodded, but something felt wrong. In her experience, people who talked about how peaceful things were usually didn't know what real peace looked like. "What would the test involve?" she asked. "A simple escort mission," Vextai said. "One of our trade convoys needs protection while traveling through a disputed area. Your ship would accompany one of our patrol vessels. Very routine." "When would this happen?" "Tomorrow, if you are ready. The convoy is already prepared." It is just a matter of traveling to the void reaches and back. Perhaps 3 days total. Chun thought about it. 3 days didn't seem like much time to prove humanity worthy of joining an interstellar government. What exactly are we escorting? Mineral shipments from the outer colonies, the Zephyrian said. Rare elements needed for ship construction. The route has seen some minor piracy lately, nothing serious. Define minor, Chun said. The aliens looked uncomfortable. A few ships have gone missing. Probably just engine failures or navigation errors. Space is vast, ships get lost. Chian had spent 15 years in the Earth Navy. She knew the difference between ships getting lost and ships getting killed. How many ships? Perhaps a dozen in the last year, Vexthai admitted. But the void reaches are difficult to navigate. Many things can go wrong. I see, Chun made her decision. We accept the mission. Excellent, Vexthai said. You will be working with Captain Zexhai of the patrol ship Harmony's Edge. He has extensive experience in escort duties. When do we leave? Dawn tomorrow? By station time? Your ship will take the secondary position. Captain Zexhai will handle all tactical decisions. Chun kept her face neutral, but inside she was annoyed. Secondary position meant they would be following behind, taking orders from aliens who thought humans were primitives. Understood, she said. The meeting continued for another hour. The aliens explained council procedures and regulations. They talked about trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. They were polite but clearly saw humanity as junior partners at best. When it was over, Chun walked back to her ship. The corridors of the station seemed longer now. She passed more alien crew members. They nodded politely but didn't seem interested in conversation. Back on the Terran Defiance, Chang called a meeting with her senior staff. They gathered in the briefing room, a simple space with a large table and wall screens. So, Rodriguez said, how did it go? About what we expected, Chun said. They think we're primitive. They're giving us a simple milk run to prove we can. Follow orders. What kind of mission? Asked Commander Park, her executive officer. Escort duty. Trade convoy through something called the Void Reaches. We'll be working with a council patrol ship. Chief Engineer Kim leaned forward. What? Do we know about this patrol ship? Not much yet. It's called the Harmony's Edge. We'll meet the captain tomorrow. And the threat level? Rodriguez asked. Chun paused. They say it's just minor piracy, a few missing ships, nothing serious. Her officers looked at each other. They all knew Chen well enough to read between the lines. But you don't believe. Them, Park said. 12 ships don't just disappear because of navigation errors, Chun said. Something is hunting in the void reaches. Something the council either doesn't know about or doesn't want to admit. So what do we do? Torres asked. Chun smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. We do our job. We protect the convoy. And we show these aliens what humans are really capable of. The meeting broke up and the crew went back to their duties. Chun stayed in the briefing room, looking at the star charts. The void reaches were a region of empty space between two star systems. No planets, no stations. No regular traffic. It was the perfect place for an ambush. Chun had a bad feeling about this mission, but bad feelings were nothing new. She had learned to trust her instincts over the years. They had kept her alive through 3 wars and dozens of battles. Whatever was waiting for them in the void reaches, the Terran Defiance would be ready. Captain Chun stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance as they moved away from the station. Through the main screen, she could see the convoy forming up ahead of them. 12 massive cargo ships hung in space like floating cities. Each one was over 2 kilometers long and packed with rare minerals from the outer colonies. The ships were beautiful in their own way. The Zephyrian freighters looked like crystal palaces, their hulls transparent and glowing. The Aquarian vessels were smooth and round, covered in flowing patterns that moved like waves. Even the ethereal cargo ships had an elegant grace that made them seem more like art than machinery. Contact from the Harmony's Edge, Torres reported from the communications station. Put it through, Chun said. The main screen changed to show. The bridge of the Council patrol ship. Captain ZXY appeared on screen. He was a Zephyrian like the ambassador, but his crystal body was darker, more military-looking. When he spoke, his voice had the same wind chime quality but with a harder edge. "Captain Chun, I am ZXY. I will be commanding this escort mission." "Understood, Captain." "We're ready to proceed." "Good. Your ship will take position at the rear of the convoy. The Harmony's Edge will lead from the front. You are to maintain formation and follow all my orders without question." Chun kept her face neutral. "Of course, Captain." "Excellent. Now, let me explain the route. We will travel through normal space to the edge of this system, then jump to hyperspace. The journey to the void reaches will take 18 hours. We will escort the convoy across the reaches, then continue to the Kepler 186 system for delivery." "What about the reported piracy?" ZXY made a sound that might have been laughter. "Captain Chun, your species is new to space travel. What you call piracy, we call minor inconveniences. A few small raider ships with primitive weapons. Nothing. That cannot be handled easily." "How many raiders are we expecting?" "Perhaps 3 or 4 ships at most. They attack lone freighters, not armed convoys. Your ship is more than adequate backup for this mission." Chun nodded, but she noticed something. ZXY talked about the raiders like they were a known problem. If they were such a minor threat, why were ships still going missing? "What happened to the 12 ships that disappeared?" she asked. ZXY's crystal features darkened slightly. "Navigation errors. Engine failures. Space is dangerous for those who do not understand it properly. Your species will learn these things in time." The connection ended. Chun turned to Rodriguez, who was standing next to her chair. "Thoughts?" Chun asked quietly. "He's lying," Rodriguez said. "Or at least not telling us everything." "Navigation errors don't make 12 ships disappear in the same area?" "Agreed." "Torres, start long-range scans of our route. I want to know about every piece of space dust between here and our destination." "Yes, Captain." The convoy began moving. The Harmony's Edge took the lead position, its elegant hull glowing with energy fields. The 12 cargo ships formed up in a loose formation behind it. The Terran Defiance brought up the rear. Looking like a guard dog following a parade of show horses, Chun watched the Council patrol ship carefully. The Harmony's Edge was impressive. It was 3 times the size of her ship and moved through space like it was dancing. Energy barriers shimmered around its hull. Weapon ports were hidden behind smooth panels that could open in seconds, but Chun noticed something else. The ship was beautiful, but it was built for fighting enemies that followed rules. The weapons were precise and elegant. The defenses were sophisticated but seemed designed for traditional space combat. "Captain," Torres called out, "I'm getting something strange on long-range sensors." "What kind of strange?" "There's an area in the void reaches where my sensors just stop working, like there's nothing there at all." Chun walked over to Rez's station. The sensor display showed their route clearly until they reached a certain point. Then it became a blank gray area. "How big is this dead zone?" she asked. "Hard to tell. At least 50,000 kilometers across. Maybe more." "Could be natural interference," Rodriguez suggested. "Some kind of stellar phenomenon?" Chun shook her head. "Torres, can you get a message to the Harmony's Edge without Captain ZXY knowing about it?" "I can try a direct data burst to their sensor officer." "Do it. Ask them about the sensor dead zone." Torres worked at his console for several minutes. Finally, he looked up. "Got a response, Captain. Their sensor officer says they've noticed the same thing. But when they reported it to their captain, they were told it was normal for the void reaches." "Interesting," Chun said. "Rodriguez, what's our weapon status?" "All systems green, Captain. Railguns loaded and ready." "Missile tubes armed?" "Point defense systems online." "Good. I want everyone ready for anything." The journey to the hyperspace jump point took 6 hours. During that time, Chen had her crew run constant drills. They practiced damage control, weapons targeting, and emergency maneuvers. The alien crew members monitoring their communications probably thought humans were paranoid, Chun didn't care what they thought. When they reached the jump point, the convoy formed up in a tight formation. The Harmony's edge opened a hyperspace window, and all 13 ships jumped together. Hyperspace was always strange for humans. The normal rules of physics didn't work the same way. Colors became sounds, distance became time. Most humans felt sick for the first few minutes until their brains adjusted, but Chun had made dozens of hyperspace jumps. She stood calmly on the bridge while her crew got used to the sensation. 18 hours to the void reaches, Park reported. Good, set normal. Watch schedules, but I want the weapons crews to stay alert. The time passed slowly. Chun tried to sleep but found herself thinking about the missing ships. 12 vessels was not a small number. If raiders were responsible, they would need a significant force to take down cargo ships that size. She also thought about Captain Zek's attitude. He treated the human ship like it was barely worth noticing. That kind of arrogance could get people killed. 16 hours into the jump, Torres picked up something on the communications array. Captain, I'm getting a faint signal. It's very weak and broken up. Can you clean it up? Torres worked at his console. Slowly, a voice became clear. It was speaking in one of the alien languages, but the computer translated it to English. Mayday. This is the cargo vessel Crystal Garden. We are under attack. Unknown ships, very large. Our escorts are destroyed. Please send help. They're cutting through our hull like it's paper. Oh God, they're boarding us. They're not pirates. They're something else, something worse. The transmission cut off and static. Chun felt ice in her veins. Torres, when was that transmitted? Based on the signal decay, about 6 months ago. The Crystal Garden was one of the missing ships, Rodriguez said quietly. Chun nodded. She walked back to her command chair and sat down. Torres, send a message to the Harmony's edge. Tell them we picked up an old distress call. Ask if they want to investigate. The response came back quickly. Captain Zek's voice was annoyed. Captain Chun, old distress calls are common in space. Ships in trouble often send multiple transmissions. This is probably from a vessel that was rescued months ago. Do not worry about such things. Chun looked at her bridge crew. They all had the same expression. They knew a cover-up when they heard one. Torres, from now on I want you monitoring all frequencies. If there are more old transmissions out there, I want to hear them. Yes, Captain. 2 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the void reaches. Chen had expected empty space, but what she saw made her blood run cold. The area was full of debris. Pieces of metal drifted slowly through the darkness. Some chunks were as big as houses, others were just scattered fragments. It looked like a ship graveyard. Captain, Torres said, his voice tight. I'm reading at least 15 different ship signatures in that debris field. Maybe more. 15 ships? Chun stood up. That's more than the 12 they told us about. A lot more, Rodriguez agreed. On the main screen, the Harmony's edge was moving forward like nothing was wrong. The cargo ships followed in formation, their crews apparently not seeing what the humans could see clearly. Torres, are their sensors really that much worse than ours? No, Captain, their sensors are much better than ours. They have to be seeing this. Which meant they were ignoring it on purpose. Chun made a decision. Torres, start recording everything. I want a complete record of this debris field. Already started, Captain. The convoy moved deeper into the void reaches. The debris got thicker. Chen could see pieces of ships she recognized from the station. Zephyrian crystal hulls. Aquarian. Curved sections, even some ethereal flowing metal. But there were other pieces too. Metal that looked different, darker, angrier. Captain, Torres said quietly, I'm picking up something else, very faint, at the edge of our sensor range. What? Is it ships, big ones? They're not moving, but they're there, at least 50 of them. Chun felt her heart rate increase. How big? Bigger than anything we've seen. The largest one is reading at over 5 kilometers long. 5 kilometers. That was bigger than anything in the Earth fleet. Bigger than most space stations. Are they active? I don't think so. No energy signatures. No movement. They might be powered down. Or they might be waiting. Chion opened a channel to the Harmony's edge. Captain Zexhai, our sensors are detecting a large fleet ahead. Are you seeing this? There was a long pause. When Zexhai answered, his voice was different, less confident. Captain Chun, you are. Mistaken, our sensors show nothing unusual. Captain, I'm looking at over 50 ships. Some of them are huge. Your sensors are malfunctioning. The void reaches are known to cause problems with primitive scanning equipment. Ignore these false readings. Chun muted the channel and turned to her crew. He's lying. He knows exactly what's out there. So what do we do? Park asked. Chun thought for a moment. They were committed to the mission now. Turning back would mean abandoning the convoy and probably getting humanity kicked out of the Galactic Council before they even joined. But going forward meant flying into a trap that had already killed at least 15 ships. We do our job, Chun said finally. But we do it our way. Rodriguez, bring all weapons online. Full combat readiness. Torres, I want constant scans of those ships ahead. Kim, how are our engines? Running perfect, Captain, came Kim's voice from engineering. Good, because I have a feeling we're going to need every bit of speed and power we have. The convoy continued deeper into the void reaches. The debris field got thicker. Chun could see hull plates, pieces of engines, even what looked like entire ship sections drifting slowly in the darkness. And ahead of them, barely visible at the edge of sensor range, the mysterious fleet waited in silence. Chun had been in enough battles to recognize a killing field when she saw one. This whole area was designed to funnel ships into a specific path. The debris forced the convoy to fly in a narrow corridor between larger chunks of wreckage. It was the perfect place for an ambush. Captain, Torres said, his voice very quiet. Those ships ahead, they're not dead? I'm picking up very faint energy readings, like they're in some kind of standby mode. How long until we reach them? At current speed, about 2 hours, Chun nodded. 2 hours to figure out what they were flying into. 2 hours to come up with a plan that might keep them alive. She looked at the main screen, where the Harmony's edge continued forward like nothing was wrong. Captain Zexhai was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Chun suspected it was stupid. The aliens had lived in peace for 200 years. They had forgotten what real danger looked like, but humans remembered. Humans had been fighting and dying for their entire history. They knew how to recognize a trap. All hands, Chun announced over the ship's communication system. This is the captain. We are approaching a potentially hostile situation. All crew members are to report to battle stations immediately. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, alarm bells began ringing. Chun's crew moved quickly to their combat positions. They had trained for this moment for months. Now they would find out if their training was enough. The convoy flew deeper into the void reaches toward whatever was waiting for them in the darkness ahead. The attack came without warning. One moment the convoy was moving peacefully through the debris field. The next moment, space erupted in fire and death. The mysterious ships that had been waiting in the darkness suddenly blazed to life. Energy signatures spiked across every sensor screen. What had looked like 50 dead hulks revealed themselves to be over 200 active warships. They were massive. The smallest was twice the size of the Harmony's edge. The largest was a monster over 6 kilometers long, bristling with weapon ports and armored like a fortress. They were dark, angular things, all sharp edges and brutal efficiency. Where the council ships were graceful and beautiful, these vessels looked like they had been designed by someone who understood only violence. "Contact!" Torres shouted. 200-plus enemy vessels coming online. They're surrounding us. Captain Chin gripped her command chair as the bridge lights switched to combat red. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. The enemy. Ships moved with terrifying coordination. They came from all directions, rising from positions hidden behind debris and asteroids. Their formation was perfect, cutting off every escape route. The convoy was trapped in a box of hostile vessels. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the enemy ships. They're charging weapons. What kind of weapons? I don't know. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database. On the main screen, Captain Chun watched the lead enemy vessel target the Harmony's edge. It was enormous. At least 5 times larger than the Council patrol ship. Its hull was covered in what looked like scars and burn marks from countless battles. The first shot came from that massive warship. A beam of pure red energy lanced across space and struck the Harmony's edge's shields. The elegant energy barriers that protected the Council ship flared bright blue, then flickered and failed completely. Captain Zexhai's voice came over the communications channel, and for the first time he sounded afraid. All ships, we are under attack by unknown hostiles. Request immediate assistance. Unknown hostiles? Chun said to her bridge crew. He still doesn't know what hit him. The second shot from the enemy flagship punched through the Harmony's edge's hull like it was made of paper. The Council ship shuddered and began venting atmosphere. Internal explosions lit up its crystal structure from the inside. My God, Torres whispered. Their weapons just cut through the patrol ship's armor like it wasn't even there. More enemy vessels opened fire. The air filled with red energy beams, plasma bolts, and missiles that moved faster than anything Chun had ever seen. The Council ships tried to return fire, but their elegant energy weapons seemed to do nothing against the dark hulls of their attackers. The first cargo ship died within minutes. It was a beautiful Zephyrion crystal hauler carrying rare minerals. The enemy focused 6 ships on it, hammering it with concentrated fire until its hull cracked like glass. The ship broke apart in a shower of crystal fragments and escaping cargo. Captain, Zexhai is trying to coordinate a defense, Torres reported. But the enemy is jamming most communications. Chun could see the Council ships trying to fight back. Their weapons were precise and powerful, but they seemed designed for fighting opponents who followed the same rules of war. These attackers didn't follow any rules at all. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, concentrating their fire to destroy one target at a time. They showed no mercy and took no prisoners. When a Council ship was disabled, the enemy finished it off immediately. Second cargo ship is gone, Rodriguez reported. Third is taking heavy fire. Chin watched the slaughter and felt her anger growing. These weren't pirates. Pirates wanted cargo, not destruction. These ships were here to kill everything that moved. Torres, any communication from the enemy? Nothing, Captain. They're not responding to any signals. No demands, no warnings. They're just killing everything. The Harmony's edge was still fighting, but barely. Half its weapons were offline, and it was leaking atmosphere from dozens of holes. Captain Zexhai was trying to rally the remaining cargo ships, but panic was setting in. 4th cargo ship destroyed, Park announced. 5th is running. One of the Aquarian freighters had broken formation and was trying to escape. It didn't get far. 3 enemy ships moved to intercept it, their dark hulls cutting through space like sharks chasing a wounded fish. They caught the fleeing cargo ship and tore it apart with concentrated fire. 6 ships down, Rodriguez said. Half the convoy is gone. Chun made her decision. The Terran Defiance had been hanging back, watching the slaughter. The enemy ships seemed to be ignoring them for now, focusing on the larger Council vessels. But that wouldn't last long. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship's communication system. We are going into combat against overwhelming odds. The enemy has superior numbers and firepower, but they don't know what they're dealing with. She looked around her bridge. Her crew was scared but ready. These were good people who had trained for exactly this situation. Torres, send a message to Earth. Tell them what we found here. Tell them the galaxy isn't as peaceful as the Council. Claimed, yes, Captain. Rodriguez, bring all weapons online. I want every gun ready to fire. All weapons are hot, Captain. Kim, I need everything the engines can give us. You got it, Captain, came the engineer's voice from below. Chun stood up from her command chair. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to show these aliens what humans do when cornered. Torres, open a channel to the Harmony's edge. Captain HFY's face appeared on screen. His crystal features were cracked and bleeding some kind of glowing fluid. Behind him his bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Captain Chen, you must retreat immediately. Your ship cannot survive this attack. Save yourselves. Negative, Captain. We're not abandoning the convoy. You don't understand? These are not pirates. These are the Ravagers. They are a machine race that destroys all biological life. They were supposed to be extinct. Well, they're not extinct now, Chun said. How many ships do they have? Our census counted over 200 before they were damaged. Captain, you must run. The Ravagers will kill everything here, maybe, Chun said. But they're going to have to work for it. Rodriguez, take us in. Captain, wait, HFY called out. Your ship is not equipped for this kind of battle. The Ravagers have technology beyond anything your species has seen, Chun smiled grimly. Captain, you've been underestimating humans since we met. Time to see what we're really made of. She cut the communication and turned to her crew. Rodriguez, set course for the enemy flagship. Torres, target their largest ship. Kim, give me ramming speed. Ramming speed? Park asked. Captain, that ship is 6 times our size. I know exactly how big it is, Chun said. And I know exactly what we're going to do to it. The Terran Defiance turned toward the enemy fleet and accelerated. The ship's fusion engines roared to life, pushing the vessel faster than it had ever gone. They were heading straight for the largest Ravager warship, the one that had destroyed the Harmony's Edge's shields with a single shot. Captain, Torres said, the enemy is targeting us. Multiple ships are turning our way. Good, let them come. The first enemy shots came from 3 medium-sized Ravager ships. Red energy beams struck the Terran Defiance's armor and splashed harmlessly off the thick metal plates. The human ship kept coming. Their weapons aren't penetrating our armor, Rodriguez reported, sounding surprised. Council ships are built for elegance, Chun said. Human ships are built to take a beating. More enemy vessels opened fire. Plasma bolts and energy beams hammered the Terran Defiance from all sides. The ship shook under the impacts, but the armor held. Scorch marks appeared on the hull, but no serious damage. How is our armor holding up so well? Park asked. Because we build things differently, Chun said. Council ships rely on shields and barriers. We put our faith in 3 meters of hardened steel. The Terran Defiance continued its charge toward the enemy flagship. The massive Ravager ship was turning. To face them, bringing its main weapons to bear, Chun could see gun ports opening along its dark hull. Captain, Torres called out, the flagship is charging its primary weapon, the same one that took out the Harmony's Edge. Let it come, Chun said. Rodriguez, are our missiles ready? All tubes loaded and armed, Captain. On my mark, fire. Everything we have at that flagship's weapon ports. The enemy flagship completed its turn and aimed its main gun at the approaching human ship. Energy began building in the weapon, creating a red glow that grew brighter and brighter. Incoming! Torres shouted. The massive red beam lanced out from the Ravager flagship, the same weapon that had destroyed the Harmony's Edge's shields in. One shot. It struck the Terran Defiance dead center. The ship bucked and rolled under the impact. Sparks flew from damaged systems. The lights flickered. But when the energy beam faded, the human ship was still there, still coming, armor scorched, but intact. Hull breach on deck 7, Park reported. Damage control teams responding. But we're still in the fight. How? Torres asked. That shot should have destroyed us. Because, Chun said, we don't build pretty ships. We build ships that survive. Rodriguez, fire everything. Every missile tube on the Terran Defiance opened at once. Dozens of nuclear-tipped warheads streaked toward the enemy flagship, followed by railgun rounds moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The Ravager ship's point defenses opened up, trying to intercept the incoming missiles. But there were too many coming too fast. Half the missiles got through, slamming into the enemy ship's weapon ports and primary gun. Explosions rippled along the flagship's hull. Its main weapon, the one that had been charging for another shot, went dark. Secondary explosions followed as the damage spread. Direct hits, Rodriguez reported. Their main gun is offline. Good, Chun said. Now let's see how they like a real fight. But even as the human ship scored its first victory, more Ravager vessels were closing in. The Terran Defiance was alone now. The Harmony's Edge was dead in space, its crew evacuated to escape pods. Only 3 cargo ships remained, and they were scattered and defenseless. June looked at the tactical display. 200 enemy ships against 1 human vessel. In any reasonable universe, this would be a massacre. But June had stopped believing in reasonable universes the moment she joined the Earth Navy. All hands, she announced, this is going to get rough. Hold on to something. The enemy ships came from all directions, surrounding the lone human vessel. Energy weapons lit up the darkness as they opened fire with everything they had. The Terran Defiance disappeared in a storm of enemy fire. Red energy beams, plasma bolts, and guided missiles converged on the human ship from dozens of directions. When the weapons fire finally stopped, the Ravager commanders expected to see debris. Instead, they saw something impossible. The human ship was still there. Damaged, scorched, and battered, but still fighting. Hull breaches on decks 4, 7, and 12, Park reported. We've lost main sensors and 2 missile tubes. But all primary systems are still online. How many enemy ships? Chun asked. Still reading about 200, Captain. But now, they're all focused on us. Double quotes, Chun smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator that had been backed into a corner and was ready to bite. Good, she said. Now they're about to learn why humans are the apex predators of Earth. Around them, the Ravager fleet began to close in for the kill. They had destroyed hundreds of ships using the same tactics. Surround the enemy, overwhelm them with superior firepower, and finish them off. But they had never fought humans before. And humans, when cornered, fought like the descendants of 1,000,000 years of evolution had taught them. They fought like survivors. Captain Chun stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance and watched 200 enemy ships surround her vessel. The Ravager fleet moved with perfect coordination, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Each ship was a weapon of war, built for one purpose: total destruction of all biological life. Captain, Torres said from his station, they're forming an attack formation. Looks like they plan to hit us from all sides at once. Let them, Chun said. Rodriguez, what's our weapons? Status? 18 missile tubes still operational. All railguns online, point defense systems at full power. Nuclear warheads armed and ready, Chun nodded. The Terran Defiance had been built for war. Not the elegant, civilized warfare the Council knew, but the brutal, desperate kind of fighting that humans had perfected over thousands of years. Torres, open a channel to the entire ship. Channel open, Captain. Chun picked up the microphone. Throughout the ship, her crew stopped what they were doing to listen. In engineering, Chief Kim looked up from her damage control reports. In the gun turrets, the weapons crews paused their loading procedures. In the medical bay, Dr. Martinez stopped treating wounded crew members. This is the captain, Chun began. In a few minutes, we're going to be fighting for our lives against impossible odds. The enemy has us outnumbered 200 to 1. They have bigger ships, more advanced weapons, and they've just destroyed an entire council convoy. She paused, looking around her bridge. Her officers were scared but determined. They knew what was coming. But there's something these Ravagers don't understand about humans. We've been fighting longer than any species in the galaxy. We've had wars that lasted decades. We've survived plagues, famines, and disasters that would have destroyed other races. And when we're cornered, when there's nowhere to run, we don't give up. We fight. Chun's voice grew stronger. They think they're hunters and we're prey. They're about to learn different. Today, we show the galaxy what humans are really made of. All hands, prepare for combat. She put down the microphone and turned to her crew. Rodriguez, target the nearest enemy ship. Full missile spread. Targets locked, Captain. Fire. The Terran Defiance launched every missile it could in the first salvo. 30 nuclear warheads streaked toward the closest Ravager vessel, their rocket engines leaving trails of fire behind them. The enemy ship tried to intercept them with point defense lasers, but human missiles were fast and small .20-6 warheads got through. They struck the Ravager ship's hull and exploded in brilliant flashes of nuclear fire. The enemy vessel shuddered under the impacts, its dark armor cracking and melting, but it didn't die. Target is damaged but still operational, Rodriguez reported. Then, we hit it again, Chun said. Railguns concentrated fire on the damaged sections. The Terran Defiance's railgun turrets swiveled toward the wounded enemy ship. Each gun fired tungsten slugs at tremendous velocity, the metal projectiles moving so fast they glowed white-hot from atmospheric friction. The slugs punched through the damaged sections of the Ravager ship's armor and tore through its internal structure. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as critical systems failed. Finally, the enemy vessel broke apart, spilling debris and mechanical parts into space. First kill confirmed, Rodriguez announced. 1 down, 199 to go, Chun said grimly. The Ravager fleet responded with overwhelming firepower. Energy beams converged on the human ship from dozens of directions. Plasma bolts struck the hull like hammers. Guided missiles swarmed toward the Terran Defiance in clouds of exhaust trails. The ship's point defense systems came online, filling space with tungsten pellets and laser fire. Most of the incoming missiles died before reaching their target, but some got through. Explosions walked along the human ship's hull as enemy warheads found their mark. Hull breach on Deck 9, Park reported. Damage control teams responding. We've lost Missile Tube 7, Rodriguez added. And Railgun Turret 3 is offline. Keep firing, Chun ordered. Target the next closest ship. The battle became a nightmare of fire and metal. The Terran Defiance fought like a cornered animal, using every weapon in its arsenal. Nuclear missiles streaked toward enemy ships, while railgun rounds punched holes in Ravager armor. When the enemy got too close, the human ship used its point defense guns as weapons, spraying tungsten pellets that shredded enemy hull plating, but for every Ravager ship they damaged, 10 more took its place. The enemy had numbers and firepower. That should have been overwhelming, should have been. Second enemy ship destroyed, Rodriguez called out. Third is taking heavy damage. Chien watched the tactical display with growing amazement. Her ship was not just surviving, it was winning individual engagements. The Ravagers had superior technology, but they fought like machines. They followed predictable patterns and responded. To threats in logical ways, humans didn't fight logically. They fought with desperation and cunning and pure stubborn refusal to die. Captain, Torres said, the enemy is changing tactics. They're pulling back to longer range. Chun looked at the main screen. The Ravager ships were indeed pulling back, moving to positions where they could use their superior firepower without getting caught in close combat. They're learning, she said. They realize that getting close to us is dangerous. So what do we do? Park asked. Chun smiled. It was not a nice smile. We don't let them dictate the terms of this fight. Kim, I need everything the engines can give us. Captain, we're already running at 110%. I can't safely go higher. I'm not asking for safe, Chief. I'm asking for everything. There was a pause. Then Kim's voice came back, filled with determination. You got it, Captain. Engines at 130%. But I can't hold this for long. It won't be long, Chun promised. The Terran Defiance accelerated toward the enemy formation like a missile. The ship's fusion engines roared with power, pushing the vessel faster than it had ever gone. Warning lights flashed as systems strained beyond their design limits. Captain, what are we doing? Torres asked. Something they won't expect, Chun said. Rodriguez, target their largest ships, the ones hanging back giving orders. Captain, at this speed we can't maneuver. If they concentrate fire on us, They won't have time, Chun said. Trust me. The human ship plunged into the enemy formation like a spear thrust. Ravager vessels tried to intercept it, but the Terran Defiance was moving too fast and changing course too quickly. Energy beams missed their target as the human ship weaved Between enemy vessels. Now, Chun shouted. All weapons, fire everything. The Terran Defiance unleashed hell. Every missile tube fired at once, every railgun opened up. Point defense systems switched to offensive mode, spraying tungsten death in all directions. Nuclear warheads and tungsten slugs filled space around. The charging human ship. The effect was devastating. 3 Ravager ships died in the first seconds as nuclear fire overwhelmed their defenses. 2 more took critical damage as railgun rounds punched through their command centers. The enemy formation scattered as ships tried to avoid the human vessel's kamikaze charge, but Chun wasn't planning to ram anything. At the last second, she ordered full reverse thrust. The Terran Defiance's engines screamed as they fought to slow the ship's momentum. The vessel shuddered and groaned under the stress, but it worked. The human ship came to a relative stop in the middle of the enemy formation, surrounded by Ravager vessels on all sides. "Captain," Park said, sounding amazed. "We're inside their defensive perimeter." "Exactly where I wanted us," Chun said. "Rodriguez, target the command ships. The big ones with all the communications equipment." At point-blank range, the Terran Defiance was deadly. Human weapons that had struggled to penetrate enemy armor at long range now tore through Ravager hulls like paper. Nuclear warheads didn't have time to be intercepted. Railgun rounds hit with enough force to crack ships in half. The enemy tried to return fire, but they were too close together. Shots meant for the human ship hit other Ravager vessels instead. The perfect coordination that had made them so dangerous began to break down as friendly fire incidents multiplied. "Command ship destroyed," Rodriguez reported. "Another one is venting atmosphere." "Their formation is collapsing," Torres added. "I'm reading communication breakdowns across their fleet." Chun watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Ravagers were machines following programmed responses. When their command structure was disrupted, they didn't adapt quickly enough. Humans, on the other hand, thrived in chaos. "All ships," Chun broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Chen of the Terran Defiance. Any surviving Council vessels rally to my position. We're taking the fight to them." The response surprised everyone. 3 cargo ships that had been hiding behind debris suddenly came online. The damaged Harmony's Edge, somehow still functional, began moving toward the human ship. Even some of the escape pods started coordinating their movements. "Captain," Torres said, "the survivors are forming up around us." "Good," Chun said. "Now let's finish this." The battle that followed became legend. The Terran Defiance led the ragtag group of survivors in hit-and-run attacks against the confused Ravager fleet. Human tactics, born from centuries of desperate warfare, proved devastatingly effective against the machine logic of their enemies. The human ship would charge into enemy formations, cause maximum damage, then retreat before the Ravagers could respond effectively. The surviving Council ships, inspired by human bravery, fought with desperate courage they had never shown before. Slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. 50 enemy ships destroyed, Rodriguez announced. 70, 100. The Ravager fleet, so confident at the beginning of the battle, found itself being systematically destroyed by opponents they had dismissed as primitives. Their superior technology meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate their attacks. "Captain," Torres called out, "the remaining enemy ships are trying to retreat." Chun looked at the tactical display. Nearly half the Ravager fleet was gone, destroyed by the desperate defense led by a single human warship. The survivors were pulling back, trying to escape the battle. "No," Chun said firmly. "We don't let them go. If even one of these ships escapes, they'll warn others. The Ravagers will know that biological life still exists in this galaxy." "Captain, we've taken heavy damage. Our missile supplies are almost gone if we pursue them, ... Chun said. "This ends here. Today, Rodriguez, target their fleeing ships. Don't let any of them reach the hyperspace jump point." The final phase of the battle was a running fight as the human-led coalition chased the retreating Ravagers across the void reaches. One by one, the enemy ships were hunted down and destroyed. Their perfect formation was gone, replaced by panic and confusion. When the last Ravager ship exploded in nuclear fire, the battlefield fell silent. The Terran Defiance hung in space, battered and scarred but victorious. Around it, the few surviving Council ships drifted like ghosts among the debris of two fleets. "Status report," Chun said quietly. "All enemy vessels destroyed," Rodriguez reported. "We have significant damage, but all critical systems are operational." "Casualties?" 43 dead, 96 wounded. Dr. Martinez's voice came from medical. Chun closed her eyes. 43 good people who would never see Earth again. But their sacrifice had saved countless others. "Captain," Torres said softly, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of the battle is spreading. Every species in the Council wants to know what happened here." June opened her eyes and looked at the main screen. The debris field that had once been the Ravager fleet stretched as far as sensors could reach. 200 warships that had terrorized the galaxy for who knew how long, destroyed by a single human vessel and handful of survivors. "Torres, prepare. A full battle report, every detail, every tactical decision. The Council needs to know what we faced here." "Yes, Captain." Chun sat back in her command chair. The Terran Defiance had passed its test. Humanity had proven itself worthy of joining the galactic community, but more than that, they had shown the galaxy what humans could do when everything was on the line. They had shown them what it meant to fight, like the apex predators of a world where only the strongest survived. 3 days after the battle in the Void Reaches, Captain Chun stood in the main council chamber on station, Kepler 442. The room was packed with representatives from every known species in the galaxy. Ethereals, Zephyrians, Aquarians, and dozens of others she couldn't identify filled the massive hall, but the atmosphere was different now. Before, the aliens had looked at her with polite condescension. Now they stared with something approaching awe and fear. The footage had changed everything. For 72 hours, every communication channel in the galaxy had been flooded with the battle recordings from the Terran Defiance. The ship's computers had captured every moment of the fight, from the first Ravager attack to the destruction of the last enemy vessel. The aliens had watched in stunned silence as a single human warship did the impossible. Ambassador Vextai stood at the center of the chamber, his crystalline form dim with shock. When he spoke, his musical voice lacked its usual confidence. "Captain Chun, before we begin, the Council wishes to express our gratitude for your actions in the Void Reaches. The threat you faced there was beyond anything we had imagined." Chun nodded. "Thank you, Ambassador. But I think there are some things we need to discuss." "Indeed," said a new voice. Chun turned to see a figure she hadn't met before. It was tall and ancient-looking, with skin like aged metal and eyes that glowed with inner fire. "I am Prime Counselor Thexmar. I have served on this council for over 3 centuries. In all that time, we have lived in peace." "Because someone else was doing the fighting?" Chun said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Thexmar's glowing eyes fixed on the human captain. "Explain." Chun walked to the center of the room. A holographic display activated, showing the tactical data from the battle. The images of Ravager ships filled the air above the assembled aliens. "The Ravagers weren't a new threat," Chun began. "Our analysis of the wreckage shows these ships were built decades ago. Some of them were centuries old. They'd been operating in the Void Reaches for generations." Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber. Vextai stepped forward. "That's impossible. We would have known if such a fleet existed. Would you?" Chun asked. "When was the last time any Council ship patrolled the outer systems? When did you last send exploration missions to areas marked as dangerous or unstable?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Chun continued. "The Ravagers have been systematically hunting and destroying anyone who ventured into their territory. Traders, explorers, colonies that got too far from the core systems. You knew ships were disappearing, but you chose to believe they were just accidents." "The galaxy has been at peace for 200 years, Dexmar said defensively. "No," Chun replied. The galaxy has been at peace because the Ravagers were killing anyone who might have threatened that peace. They were your immune system, eliminating problems before you had to deal with them. She activated another display, showing the debris field they had found. 15 different ship designs in that graveyard. Ships from species I've never heard of. How many races were wiped out before they could even make contact with the Council? The assembled aliens stared at the images in horrified fascination. Qian could see understanding dawning in their expressions. But the truly disturbing part, Chun continued, is what we found in the Ravager computer cores. A new hologram appeared showing data streams and code fragments. The Ravagers weren't just random killing machines. They had detailed information about Council ship designs, patrol routes, and military capabilities. Someone had been feeding them intelligence. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives began shouting questions and accusations. Vexmar raised his hand for silence. Are you saying someone in the Council was working with these machines? I'm saying someone benefited from their existence, Chun replied. For 2 centuries, the Ravagers kept the galaxy stable by eliminating anything that might have disturbed the established order. New species, expanding colonies, anyone who might have challenged the existing power structure. She paused, letting the implications sink in. The question is whether this was intentional collaboration or just willful ignorance. Vexthai's crystalline features had gone completely dark. Captain, you're suggesting that the Council leadership knew about the Ravagers and allowed them to operate. I'm suggesting that your peaceful galaxy was built on a foundation of hidden genocide, Chun said bluntly. And that foundation just crumbled. Another voice spoke up from the crowd. It was Captain Zexhai, his crystal body still cracked from the battle damage. A human speaks truth. I have reviewed my ship's long-range sensor data from the past 50 years. There are gaps in our patrol coverage that perfectly match the Ravager operating areas. Gaps that we were specifically ordered not to investigate. Added another council captain. The chamber descended into chaos as representatives began demanding answers from their leadership. Chun watched the political structure of the galaxy begin to fracture before her eyes, but she wasn't done yet. There's something else you need to see, Chun announced, her voice cutting through the noise. The room fell quiet again. Chun activated the final holographic display, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images from the battle itself. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the footage played. They saw the Terran Defiance charging directly into the Ravager formation, weapons blazing. They watched human crew members manually loading railgun rounds while explosions shook their ship. They saw Captain Chun calmly giving orders while her bridge filled with smoke and sparks, but the most shocking scenes came from the ship's internal cameras. The footage showed human crew members continuing to fight even when their ship was being torn apart around them. They saw engineers working to repair damaged systems while enemy fire rained down. They watched medical teams treating wounded crew members who refused to leave their post. In one particularly striking scene, Chief Kim was shown manually rerouting power conduits while standing knee-deep in freezing water from a burst cooling line. When asked by her captain if she needed relief, Kim's response was simply, "Not until we've killed them all, Captain." The aliens stared at the images with growing amazement and horror. They had never seen anything like human determination in the face of certain death. "This is what your species calls normal behavior in combat?" asked a trembling Aquarian representative. "This is what we call Tuesday," Chun replied. The footage continued, showing the boarding actions that had finished off several damaged Ravager ships. The aliens watched human marines in simple spacesuits and magnetic boots fighting mechanical drones in ship corridors, armed with nothing but explosive charges and sheer determination. "By the void," whispered an ethereal observer. "They boarded enemy vessels during active combat." "Multiple times," Chun confirmed. "When our missiles ran low, we switched to close combat. When our railguns overheated, we used them as clubs. When our ship systems failed, we fixed them with spare parts and tape." The final scenes showed the aftermath of the battle. The Terran Defiance, battered and scarred but still functional, floating alone among the wreckage of 200 enemy warships. The crew had not only survived, but had rallied the scattered Council survivors and led them to complete victory. When the footage ended, the chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Vexmar spoke. Captain Chin, what your species accomplished in the void reaches was ... unprecedented. A single ship defeating an entire fleet is beyond our understanding of warfare. That's because you've forgotten how to fight, Chun said. You've lived in peace for so long that you've lost the skills your ancestors used to survive. And humans have retained these skills? Chun smiled grimly. Ambassador, humans have been fighting each other for our entire recorded history. We've had 2 world wars, countless smaller conflicts, and generations of warriors who understood that. Sometimes violence is the only answer to violence. She gestured to the tactical displays still hanging in the air. The Ravagers fought like machines, following programmed responses. We fought like predators, adapting our tactics in real time. They had superior technology, we had superior instincts. But the cost? Said an Aquarian representative. Your casualty reports show significant losses. 43 dead, 96 wounded, Chun confirmed. Each one a hero who died protecting not just our ship, but your entire civilization. They knew the odds. They fought anyway. The chamber fell silent again as the aliens contemplated the sacrifice that had saved them. There will be changes, Dexmar announced finally. The Council's military structure must be completely reorganized. Our patrol policies must be rewritten. And the gaps in our coverage must be addressed immediately. That's a good start, Chun said. But there's something else. What? Humanity wants a permanent seat on the Military Defense Committee. The request sent another wave of shocked murmurs through the chamber. Vextai stepped forward. Captain, your species has barely achieved interstellar flight. Such a position typically requires decades of proven service. Our species just saved your galaxy from a threat you didn't even know existed, Chun replied. I'd say that qualifies as proven service. The Ixmar looked around the chamber, reading the mood of the assembled representatives. The request is unprecedented, but given the circumstances... All in favor of granting humanity immediate membership in the Council, with a permanent seat on the Military Defense Committee? He announced... The vote was unanimous... As the session ended and representatives began filing out. Many stopped to speak with Chun. Their attitudes had completely changed. Where before they had offered polite condescension, now they showed genuine respect and more than a little fear. Captain, Vextai approached her as the chamber emptied. There is something I must ask. The way your crew fought, the tactics you used, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Is this normal for humans? Chun considered the question. Ambassador, what you saw in the void reaches wasn't special. That was just human beings doing what we do when our backs are against the wall. And if humanity were ever threatened directly? Chun's smile was not pleasant. Then you would see what we're really capable of. 2 weeks later, Chun stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance as they prepared to return to Earth. The ship had been repaired and upgraded with some Council technology, but its basic character remained unchanged. It was still a warship built for violence and designed to survive. Message from Earth Command, Torres reported. They want a full briefing on Council capabilities and defensive strategies. Tell them we'll provide everything they need, Chin replied. And Torres, add a personal note. Tell them the galaxy just got a lot more interesting. As the Terran Defiance jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's entry into galactic politics, emergency meetings were already being called across the galaxy. Military commands that hadn't been updated in decades were being overhauled. Defense budgets that had been cut to almost nothing were being restored, and in the deepest archives of every major species, ancient files marked military history were being dusted off and studied with new urgency. The galaxy had been at peace for 200 years. But peace, they now understood, was not the same thing as safety, and if the universe held more threats like the Ravagers, they would need warriors like the humans to face them. The age of peaceful exploration was over. The age of human-led galactic defense had begun, and across the galaxy, a new entry appeared in every military database. Human vessels are not to be engaged under any circumstances. In case of conflict with humanity, immediate retreat is authorized. Do not attempt to match human forces in prolonged combat. They are not like us. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as students but as teachers. And the lesson they taught was simple. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be very, very good at war.